Hello, class. I am Professor Hatter. Welcome to class today. It's a very, very big day for me. It is President's Day, and Billy, if I get it, Billy, it's not President's Day actually, but the kids at home don't know that. Okay, well, now the cat's out of the bag. Spoiler alert. I filmed a day late, but it's okay. It's President's Day week. We can celebrate the whole week for presidents. And Billy can go back into his corner and sip on his coffee. Yeah, Billy, I was busy all weekend. The new hat I wanted came in later than I expected. Didn't have time. Billy, just go in the corner. You're fine. You're fine. Yeah, perfect. Billy is my TA for you new subscribers out there. If you're new to the channel here, then welcome, of course, new student. Welcome to this tuition-free Hat Course University YouTube channel. Subscribe down below if you're new to the channel, of course, and always leave a comment down below. That's always your assignment and your attendance grade. So, I am very into the presidents. This is my president hat, and usually it's up over here on my hat wall, but my USA flag hat's there for the moment. Very into the presidents. Ever since second grade, reading a book about the presidents, I became enthralled into history and into politics. For me, they are two in one, essentially. Most often, they work with each other. I kind of specialized in the area of the presidents, and it's just my big day, other than Star Wars Day, which is also my birthday. But for the winter time, this is my big day, President's Day. So, in this video, we're going to have new hats to show, some old hats to show that relate to presidents. We have some presidential trivia that relate to hats, and we have a story about a president who killed the hat business. So find out all that and more on this video. Which president killed the hat look? So, get out a notebook, pen, and pencil, because class is in session. Let's go. Wanted to show you my mug from the intro shot there. This is a Republican mug full of past and more recent Republican campaign slogans and logos from all the past presidential elections. Nixon's the one, something with Reagan and Bush, Harding, yeah. Country First for McCain. You got one for even Garfield, wow. James A. Garfield, wow. Daddy Bush, even Barry Goldwater. Ugh. So, one of my neighbors, she got it for me. She's also into history, so the great mug to have. Pretty cool. On to the rest of the class for today. I usually go in order of when I obtain my hat, so, hat number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. But this time, for this exception, I wanted to go out of order. It's okay this time, don't worry. Billy's a little mad I'm not going in order, getting a little OCD. I can understand that, but it's for a special occasion, for a special reason. I want to show you my most recent hat here. Hat number 207 is a hat that I might have gotten earlier. I wanted to get it last year, really, back in last May, but I didn't get it for some reason. But I had it on my mind for a long time, though, so you can't totally call me a bandwagon fan because I didn't get the hat back then and because I'm getting it now, and now that the season is in full swing, you can't really call me a bandwagon fan. I've been a fan for a while. It's just that I've been a fan of this guy, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, for president 2020. This is my first ever campaign hat. I've always wanted a sub-collection of presidential campaign hats, and been kind of picky with eBay and which hats I've wanted to get, and I've lost them because I lost them to bids, but I figured now would be a good time to get the Mayor Pete hat. He's running as a Democratic candidate for the 2020 presidential race. He is as I'm recording this, a former mayor of the town South Bend, Indiana, and he is a moderate Democratic candidate. Kind of appeals to me as a moderate Republican myself. But what really appealed to me about Mayor Buttigieg is that he's only 37 years old. And when I was a kid in second grade, I decided that I want to be president someday because learning from the book about the presidents, they helped people. I decided, the minimum age to run for president, as per the Constitution, you have to be born in the United States. You have to be a citizen of the country for 14 years. I have both of those down. And you have to be 35 years old to become president. So I would be, the earliest I could run is 37 years old in 2032. And Mayor Pete is 37 right now. So I kind of made a little connection because of that. So that's why I'm a Pete Buttigieg fan, and he's also moderate too. I like this hat. I've been eyeing up one of his campaign hats for a while, but I waited till now, a little bit late. The 2020 primary and caucus season has already started for the Democrats. The Republican field is kind of set already. More often, the incumbent doesn't have too many opponents during the primary and caucus season. So, like, there were really no opponents for Obama to have to run against in 2012, just like Trump does now, having no official big named people to run against him. So it's really the Democrats that are at each other's throats to get the Democratic nominee to face Trump in the 2020 presidential election in November. I like this hat. Nice yellow hat. I don't have too many yellow hats. I have one hat up there, which is yellow, Milwaukee School, from my brother, and actually that's where the Democratic National Convention will be this summer in Milwaukee. So I like this hat. It's got Pete, his logo, in the front there, pretty simple, and on the back of the dad hat strap back here, got the American flag tag on the back, and this is a made in the USA hat, which I like a lot. And this is from the Sewing Lab. And suffice to say, this product has been machine embroidered by the trainees of the Sewing Lab, a program of So Loved Inc., a nonprofit organization. Product sales support their domestic and industrial training programs, which teach sewing, employment, and life skills to young adult students in South Bend, Indiana. With every purchase, you create job training for living wage employment opportunities, handing these students the keys to unlock their full potential. So I really like that. This is not only, a guy I like, I got it off clearance too, but it's for a good cause too. So I really like that it's made in the USA, kind of in the Midwest local area. So really cool hats to have. And this is hat number 207. So let's get on to some presidential trivia that involve hats.
I wonder what's on TV today.
A few fun facts about presidents and hats. First one, like my Abraham Lincoln hat here. Abraham Lincoln wore his stovepipe hat, the tall top hat he had. He would often shove a few documents in there, some letters, some important documents, and he would carry around in his hat. Really good transportation system. I mean, it's a two-in-one. It's good fashion wear, and it also keeps your documents safe and in one place. Good on you, Abe. Good storage. James Monroe, the fifth president of the United States, when you start to name the presidents in order, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, you might think of James Madison, and after that, you don't know who the hell you're thinking of, and that's James Monroe, the fifth president of the United States. He was nicknamed the last cocked hat, as in, he was one of the last major politicians who served in the Revolutionary War. And they had those three-cornered hats back in the day, and they would have those hats a little, cocked to the side a bit, a little fashion wear like that. So he was nicknamed the last cocked hat, the glory days of the rebellious foundation of our country. Harry S. Truman, who was the 33rd president of the United States after Franklin Delano Roosevelt died in office, the S in Harry S. Truman stands for nothing. It's literally just a random S in his name. Yeah, that's kind of cool, though. He's from Missouri, and he is known as a haberdasher, as they would call it. A haberdasher basically translates to a person who is into men's fashion and accessories, particularly hats. So he was into the good old style fashion of men's headwear back in the day. You know, like fedoras and good looking hats.
Oh, very interesting. What else is on TV?
What is going on, everybody? This is
Oh,
Major
no.
League
Oh,
Hats,
this-
and
yeah.
as you guys
Nope.
can see,
Done.
Wanted to give two more history lessons here. One, which president killed the hat look? I'll tell you. I'm wearing his alma mater right now. Harvard. Harvard? Harvard. Yeah, Harvard. That's what it is. That's what normal people say. Harvard. John F. Kennedy is the suspect at large here to being the man, the president who killed the top hat look, or the look. Whereas it was a tradition for long-standing time that a president would wear some sort of hat, some sort of fashionable formal hat wear, whether it be a three-cornered hat or a top hat of sorts, to the inauguration. And I'm guessing during the inaugural speech as well. Whereas Kennedy didn't do that. He bucked the trend. I'm not saying that, ooh, he's a hooligan. He's one of those darn liberal Democrat hooligans. He wasn't as liberal as the modern Democrats are, I'd say. But that Democrat, Kennedy, that young kid, youngest president ever elected at age 42. What a hooligan. He's not following tradition. So after Kennedy, no other president wore a formal headwear piece to an inauguration ceremony or speech. Supposedly, Nixon did wear a top hat before his speech, but there's no photographic proof of it, of him trying to jumpstart the trend back, so we'll discount him. But it wasn't Kennedy's fault that he killed the trend of formal headwear for men back in the day. It wasn't his fault that the fedoras died out, the good-looking hats. There's 5 theories here of why the formal headwear trend came out and died out. 1. Supposedly, men who returned from World War II had grown tired of wearing hats, specifically helmets, during the war. I can understand that they're so used to wearing those helmets on their head. It's good to let the hair flow through. They're very uniform buzz cuts. Anyways, and also that there was something about cars, that everyone got cars during the 50s because of the suburban boom and suburban sprawl. Before, cars were open top. Most of them didn't have roofs on them. And that's why men would wear hats, for protection when they're on the road driving. Honk, honk. And once the newer cars came out in the 50s, they all had roofs on them, except for convertibles. Men didn't really have a need to wear hats anymore. So that's another theory why the hat trend died out. Or there's the idea that not wearing a hat meant that you didn't conform to society. And, being young rebels out of World War II, those soldiers, they wanted to be independent and not, fit the trend like their parents did. And then the 5th theory why, like any other fad, any fashion trend, it just died out. It just, ran its course. So, it's a little history lesson there for you that John F. Kennedy might have killed the hat trend for presidents, but not the overall trend for wearing formal wear for gentlemen starting in the 60s. So, it's not Kennedy's fault this time. And that is why, my American neighbors, I want to bring factory jobs back to America. Hard-working Americans back into work in American companies. That is why, my first day in office, I will bring back the New Era Derby plant back into New York. That way, we will always be proud for our hat collectors to have made in the USA hats. From fitted to snapbacks to dad hats to every other kind of hat in between, we'll be proud to make hats in the USA for a new era, and we will fix lids while we are at it. That is my promise to you, Americans. Natal 2032. Campaign hats are very popular now. It's a bright, visible way to show your support for a certain candidate. And some campaign hats are a little bit more popular than others, or infamous, or more recognizable than others. And the trend started back in the late 1800s, where if you've seen before those straw hats that are kind of like circular and kind of squished, little small, tall hats. So the trend of the campaign hat kind of started in the late 1800s, where for national conventions of either the Republican or Democratic Party, they started wearing those little short, stocky straw hats. Those hats were worn during those national conventions, deciding the candidate for each party to represent for the presidential election. Those hats were mainly summertime hats. The straw helped with breathing and made your head less sweaty feeling, and just more ventilation, and it was more comfortable to wear. Trend, that look, kept rolling on through, so you'll see in this upcoming summer, for the Republicans and Democrats, a few of them wearing that similar looking style hat. Material's going to be different. It started to trend towards plastic and styrofoam material during the Kennedy and Nixon presidential race in 1960, but those were some of the first presidential campaign hats, where people would wear those around town, supporting their candidate because, hey, I support this guy, hey, I support that guy, that person. And it didn't become really popular until Adlai Stevenson ran for president in the 1950s, who was actually a congressman from Illinois. So that's kind of the trend and popularity of how the campaign hat became about. I'll leave a link to the article where I got the information from down below in the descriptions. So, we got enough of this history talk out of the way. I want to show you my newest hat number 206. It is a very presidential hat, very cool hat. I'm so glad I finally got it, just for this special occasion of President's Day / week. And let's get into hat number 206 right now. Well, we'll do the cool transition, and then we'll do it then. Class, we're at the end of the video here. Before we get into the last hat reveal, I just want to thank you for listening to my ramblings here, even though they were good ramblings. I showed you my newest hat 207, my Pete Buttigieg 2020 presidential campaign hat, and hopefully I get to wear it a little bit more than this year. Maybe 4 more years at least. Went through some trivia with presidents and hats, some being haberdashers, or some using hats as storing devices or briefcases in a way. Talked about why Kennedy was the hat trend killer. Also talked about the history of campaign hats. And you also listened to a little bit of my speech for 2032, the way I'll get to be in the Oval Office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C. by that time. And now we're on to the last hat reveal here, and this one is a doozy. This hat I've been looking around for a while for, ever since I had seen it. It was no longer available on lids, and I looked around at a few other spots, and never just had the gumption to just get it, but now I finally did. Hat number 206 is actually a good number for this hat, because take the 0 away, you get 26. And who is the 26th President of the United States? Theodore Teddy Roosevelt. This is my newest hat 206. This is actually, technically, the Frisco Rough Riders on-field hat. They are a minor league team, AA ball in Texas, and I just had to have this hat. I had seen so many other hat collectors have this hat in their collection, and I'm like, dude, Teddy Roosevelt is on a hat as a Rough Rider? Get me that right now, but it took me a few years to get. But this is just such a phenomenal hat. One of my new top 15 or 10 hats or so, but really, really gem of a hat, I'll call it. Teddy in his Rough Rider gear. He's in his cowboy hat with the brim bent up a bit. He's in his glasses slash monocles, and he's in his smiling mustached face. And on the collar, it is RR engraved in for Rough Riders. I'll get into the history of what a Rough Rider is. The side New Era flag, I want to say is white, but it feels like an off-white to be honest. And it kind of fits the nice maroon color. The website listed this hat as a plum color, but it's a nice maroon hat, kind of like a Concordia maroon. And on the back you have the minor league logo, and it's just a really nice hat. And polyester, Bangladesh, and 7.5 size. So this is one of my new favorite hats, not just because it's new to me, but this is an awesome hat to have. A president on my hat. So a Rough Rider. Let me go into the history of what a Rough Rider is. A little backstory. Teddy Roosevelt, no one really liked him. He was the governor of New York at one time. And to get him out of politics because he was a little bit too progressive at the time for some of those bigwig guys, they were like, hey, you should go to D.C. You should, work for the president's office. And they put him in a assistant position to the U.S. Navy Secretary's office. They kind of shuffled Teddy around to, keep him out of their way, and the establishment. Teddy just caused trouble wherever he went, the good kind of trouble. And Teddy Roosevelt quit his U.S. Assistant Secretary position because it was in the 1880s that the Maine blew up. The USS Maine blew up in Cuba. That started the Spanish-American War. You remember that war, right? Remember the Maine, the hell to Spain, that whole catchphrase? Yeah, you're probably too young for that stuff. Anyways, Teddy quit his job as the assistant secretary, and he joined the Marines. Teddy formed this cavalry group he led throughout the whole war. It was only like maybe 9 or 10 months that the war lasted. Not too long of a war. Could have slept right through it even. The group was nicknamed the Rough Riders because they consisted of a very diverse group of men. Men that included Ivy League men who were just regular factory workers at the time throughout the industrial age, men who were cowboys and Native American tribal men who joined the fight. And it was just a very diverse group, and they were pretty badass. Teddy Roosevelt was a BAMF, as we would say in history, a badass motherfucker. And the name didn't start because Teddy nicknamed themselves the Rough Riders. They didn't really like that name, actually. They were nicknamed the Rough Riders throughout the press at the time, even though it was a press fault because of sketchy journalism. Now, the nickname Rough Riders didn't come because Roosevelt said, hey, we're rough and we ride horses, so therefore we're the Rough Riders. It was actually from the press, who was sketchy at the time. I mean, you always hear of, fake news today. Yeah, the news press back then were really bad. They were the ones who kind of might have led to the war. The idea was, Spain attacked the USS Maine, a U.S. Navy ship. Maybe the Maine actually blew up from a mechanical error, but the press blamed Spain, so therefore we had a war with Spain over Cuba. But the press and other men of the army and military gave the nickname of Rough Riders to Teddy Roosevelt's cavalry group. And that's why you have the Rough Riders. So it's a really cool hat, and if you want to learn more about the Rough Riders history and Teddy Roosevelt, he was very cool in his day. He kind of broke the the whole trend of weak presidents under Congress and even corporations at the time. He broke the mold of, a weak president to bring back strong executive power to the executive branch. He busted all those trusts. He started the Panama Canal. He annexed a lot of U.S. territory that we have now today. Well, we lost Cuba. Anyways, But he was a very progressive president at the time. One of the coolest facts I think about Teddy Roosevelt is not only did he try to run as a third-party candidate in 1912, during one of his speeches, he was shot at. An assassination attempt was made at him during a campaign speech. And he actually lived through it because he was shot in the chest, but he had so many papers for his speech to give that the paper absorbed all of the impact from the bullet, and he was shot in the chest. The papers absorbed the shock and the impact, and he wanted to give the speech still. And then he went to the hospital. So he's a pretty tough guy. So I give a big hats off to Teddy Roosevelt for all he's done for America. That's why he's ranked number 2 in my presidential rankings. Thank you so much again, class, for watching my video today. It was probably a long video, but hey, it was a really fun video. I'm sure later on I'll do another presidential video because of, it's 2020, presidential election year. It's going to be really fun, I think. I know it will be. You might be a little weary, but we'll make it fun in class here. Anything that's on my hat, we talk about. So we're going to talk about presidents later on. And New Era will be releasing a 2020 presidential campaign lineup style collection because I did it back in 2012 and 2016. I missed out on those hats, but I will be waiting for them in 2020. So as always, I hope you enjoyed class today. If you're new to the class, subscribe, of course, and your homework is to comment down below on any campaign hats that you might own. I'm sure some of my followers have a Make America Great Again hat. That's a cool thing to have. And name your favorite president down below. And you can't name Trump because he hasn't finished his job. That's why I can't rank him. So name a past president who is your favorite. How about that? Thank you again for watching. Hats off to you as always for watching. Have a good day, everyone. Class is dismissed. Bye, everyone. Again, thank you for watching my video today. Huge thank you to Ben from Best Buy, one of my co-workers. I don't see him too often, but really glad that he was acting in instead of a clip of me watching the TV at work. Really appreciate his enthusiasm and patience and work for getting that scene. Genuinely Ben, and worked out really well. So thank you to Ben for his work for that. And also want to mention, if anyone's interested, for anyone interested in being my vice president, just send a resume, send a cover letter, why you want to be my vice president, and those applications will be due by, let's say, May 1st, 2032. So, open applications for vice president are open now. So, leave a comment down below or find my Instagram if you're interested. Thank you very much for watching the video. Have a good day, everyone. Hats off. Bye.